We're going to try something different. Here's a step-by-step guide on how to get into Cuba as an American. Are US citizens allowed to visit Cuba at this time? Take it away, Carla.
Thank you, Nate. So the straightforward answer is yes, except for explicit tourism purposes. It is perfectly legal for Americans to travel to Cuba. However, you must meet certain requirements. You will need a Cuban tourist card, also known as a Cuban visa, travel insurance, and self-certification under one of the 12 authorized travel categories to Cuba. You must also refrain from spending money at certain restricted businesses. Keep all travel receipts and records for a period of 5 years.
What do I need to travel into Cuba?
Well, if you plan on flying into Cuba, here are the entry requirements you must meet. Number 1. A valid U.S. passport. A standard United States passport is valid for travel to Cuba. Make sure your passport is valid for at least 6 months after your return date from Cuba to avoid any issues going through customs. 2. Cuba tourist card. All tourists, regardless of where they are from, are required to have a special visa known as a tourist card in order to enter Cuba. When you board your flight to Cuba, you must have a tourist card with you.
So how do you obtain a tourist visa to Cuba?
You have a couple of options. The most common way for visitors to obtain their Cuba tourist card is through their airline. Each company approaches the process in a unique way. Some airlines will include the cost of the visa in the ticket price, while others will require you to purchase it separately. The visa itself costs $50 plus a processing fee of $25 to $35. Here are some travel visa prices from major airlines. If purchased online, American Airlines charges $85. $50 for the visa fee plus $35 for the processing fee. If purchased in person at Miami International Airport, the fee is $100. $50 for the visa fee plus $50 for the processing fee. With Delta Airlines, $50 payable at the airport. With JetBlue, $50 payable at the airport. With Southwest Airlines, $75. $50 for the visa fee plus $25 for the processing fee, available online or at the gate. With United Airlines, $75. $50 USD for the visa fee plus $25 USD service charge, payable at the gate. Not all flight search engines offer flights from the United States to Cuba. We recommend using Skyscanner to find cheap flights to Cuba. Purchase a Cuba visa online. If your plane ticket doesn't come with a visa already attached, you can get one from the website. Easy Tourist Card. A 30-day tourist card will cost you around $144, which is more than if you bought it with your ticket. Number 3. Travel insurance for Cuba. It is mandatory for all visitors to Cuba to have valid travel insurance. You must have health insurance that will cover any emergency medical care you may need while on the island. This is why there is a need for travel insurance, and why companies like RoamRight exist. If you experience a medical emergency while abroad, RoamRight has you covered. It also protects you from the hassle of things like trip cancellation and lost or stolen luggage. RoamRight costs about $50 USD per person for a week. Number 4. A valid general license to travel to Cuba. U.S. citizens are required to obtain a license, also known as a general license or a category of authorized travel to Cuba, before they can visit Cuba. The Office of Foreign Assets Control establishes these classifications. Contrary to popular belief, it is not a license in the sense of a driver's license or even a tourist visa. It is not a physical document that you must bring with you to Cuba. Getting a Cuba general license means you have chosen one of the 12 ways the U.S. government lets people go to Cuba legally. You meet all of the requirements for your chosen category to be able to go to Cuba. 5. Customs and health declaration forms. All travelers to Cuba must have a sanitary statement and a customs declaration form with them. We suggest that you fill out the paperwork online at Davia Heroes, is the government website for this. You will save yourself time and trouble. 6. Cuba travel restrictions amid the COVID-19 pandemic. As of April 4, 2022, proof of COVID-19 vaccination or a negative PCR test is not, I repeat, not required. But keep in mind that Cuban health authorities will randomly select arriving passengers for COVID-19 screening to include the collection of a sample for a PCR test.
Okay, so let's tell them about how to travel to Cuba from the United States legally. Before we go on with the step-by-step guide, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to Nate in Your State, and share this video if you think anyone else can benefit from this information. Now, Carla, can you run us through planning a trip to Cuba?
Certainly, Nate. I'll try to make organizing a trip to Cuba from the United States simpler. The purpose of your trip will determine which category of authorized travel to Cuba you should choose. Full-time trips to Cuba require planning around that specific category of authorized travel. Depending on your planned route through the country, you may need to arrange for lodging in Cuba. Keep in mind that you are not allowed to stay at any place on the Cuba prohibited accommodations list. You absolutely must not spend money at certain businesses in Cuba, and your paperwork and receipts should be kept for at least 5 years. Now, let's go further on each step. Step 1. Choose one of the 12 categories of authorized travel to Cuba. The only requirement for obtaining a Cuba General License is to declare the reason for your trip, which must be one of the 12 categories of authorized travel to Cuba. If your trip falls into one of the 12 categories, you're good to go. The 12 categories of legal travel permitted under the Cuba General License are as follows: family visits, official business for the U.S. government, foreign government, and certain intergovernmental organizations, journalism, professional research and professional meetings, educational activities, religious activities, public performances, clinics, workshops, athletic and other competitions, and exhibitions. Support for the Cuban people, exportation, importation or transmission of information or informational materials, humanitarian projects, activities of private foundations or research or educational institutes, certain export transactions. At some point during your booking process, you'll need to declare your category of authorized travel to Cuba.
Can you tell us more about the support for the Cuban people travel category? What is that all about?
Sure, this category has its own section because it is the most common way for people from the US to travel to Cuba, but also because it might be very hard to understand. Support for the Cuban people is the best license for solo trips to Cuba when no other license fits your reason for going. Americans love this category because, as you can probably tell from how it's written, it's not very specific. You have a lot of freedom and can do almost everything you could do in any other Caribbean country. You must, however, show that you have done things that strengthen Cuban society. Most of these things are fun, and many of them are probably things you would do anyway. Go to museums and places with a lot of history. Eat at restaurants that are owned by people in your area. Take lessons in Cuban cooking. Take salsa dancing classes. Visit a tobacco farm and find out how Cuban cigars are made. Volunteer with a local organization or charity. In Cuba, you're expected to dedicate about 8 hours a day helping the Cuban people. Still, don't worry about it. It's not like an American official will call you every day to check your schedule. Instead, choose some of the above things to do and dive into the beautiful culture and traditions of Cuba. After you figure out how to get to Cuba as a U.S. citizen, make sure to plan a lot of fun things to do there. Step 2. Book a flight to Cuba. Once you define the license you will use, you'll be ready to book your tickets to Cuba. Skyscanner is a flight search engine where you can find flight deals to Cuba. Keep in mind that after December 10, 2019, U.S. airlines are authorized to fly only to Havana Airport. Step 3. Plan your itinerary in Cuba. Even if you plan on traveling to Cuba independently, such as with a backpack, your itinerary will be determined by the type of trip you book. If you're going under the Support the Cuban People rubric, for instance, you can do whatever you like in terms of scheduling. However, your itinerary must feature the types of activities appropriate for this type of trip. Avoid via rent-a-car if you're planning to travel around Cuba by car, as it is owned by the Cuban military and you won't be able to freely explore the country. Step 4. Book accommodations in Cuba. The next step in your plan is to make hotel reservations. There are casas particulares, hotels, and resorts. However, if you want to experience real Cuba at a reasonable price, I suggest staying in a casa particular. For up-to-date listings, try using Skyscanner. Remember that you must not stay at certain accommodations listed in the Cuba Prohibited Accommodations list. Step 5. Don't spend money at restricted businesses. Even though relations between the United States and Cuba have gotten better over the past decade, the United States Treasury still tells Americans not to spend money randomly in Cuba. The Treasury actually keeps a list of companies that people are told not to participate in. The U.S. still doesn't get along well with Cuba's military and security services, which own most of these businesses.
By the way, if you need help understanding Cuba's extremely complicated dual currency system, I'll have a video up soon.
Step 6. Keep your receipts and records for 5 years. The U.S. government can ask you about your travel records and receipts for up to 5 years after your trip to Cuba. I know this may sound a little scary, but from what I know is that it doesn't happen very often. But it's better to be safe than sorry. So keep your records in a safe place for 5 years in case you're asked about your trip.
Thanks for sharing this information, Carla. What do you guys think? Feeling confident traveling to Cuba now? Let me know in the comments. Like this video, share this video, and subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video or over there in Cuba. If you guys want to learn about the process of getting into Venezuela, check out this video right here.